Well, hello YouTubers. I am going to show you today how to change your transmission oil filter in the Expedition. This is the 4.6 and I believe the 5.4 is probably the same thing. I got it up on ramps and all that, and I got my wheels back here shocked. And let's see, I got my new filter here and everything, only $14 brand new, and they give you a gasket too. Now on this model, I don't need to use that gasket because I have a factory gasket on my pan that's reusable. Now on this new filter right there, if you put your mouth on there and blow through there, that's a good indication that your filter is not plugged up. But mine on the transmission is pretty plugged up. I need to go ahead and change this, but always a good idea to change this, especially if you're rebuilding a transmission. You want to put new filters on to keep all the new debris out of the transmission. So like I said, I've jacked it up. Now the tools you will need basically is a 10mm socket, and you may need a little swivel, because back on the back of that pan, you kind of got to get a swivel in there to get those two little 10mm bolts out. And this is a 14mm a 14mm bolt pattern on this pan. And they make two types. One's, I believe, 21, and this is a 14, so that's a smaller one. And all we got to do now is go ahead and take all these bolts out across this pan and slowly let the fluid drain out. Now, I have a big tote. I like to get these big totes. These are really nice to catch all the fluid, because you can reuse your fluid if you filter it out and everything. But if your filter is really black and everything, your oil is really black and everything, you certainly don't want to use the oil. You want to get new transmission fluid. Alright, so let's get to it here. We'll go ahead and start taking some of these bolts out, and we'll get this fluid to drain out. And also, if you have a cross member like this, I always have a smaller pan, because some of that fluid likes to run down and kind of get caught on this little bevel, and it kind of drips on that side. So I got an extra pan there. And it actually might do it on this side. I don't remember, but if it does, I'll grab another pan. So we'll go ahead and start taking these bolts off. I could use my regular ratchet, power ratchet, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to go ahead and do this by hand, because it won't take very long to get these off. So let me get to it here, and we'll get this off. All right, now I got about half of my bolts out, and you can already see the fluid starting to drip there a little bit. I like to do the three on the back here first, and go on this side and take all these out. By the time you take those out over there, the fluid starts to leaking, and you can kind of get your pan set up. Then on this side, I can take all these off last, and I can actually hold the pan up and wiggle it and slowly let this fluid get out of there. It makes it a little bit easier. But that's just me. If you have a different setup, a different way you like to do it, go for it. But yeah, I figured this is a pretty easy job, but I'll make a video anyway. What the heck. Alright, I figure you have nothing better to do, so since you're already here watching my video, you can go ahead and watch me take it the rest of the way out. We'll do this in real time. And the bolts, there she comes out. You see all that fluid? You gotta be careful, you'll get a bath, that's for sure. And you want to do this when your transmission is fairly cool. You don't want to do it when it's hot, because it's easy to strip these bolts. And when you put the bolts back in, you want to start every one of them with your finger. You do not want to take a ratchet and start torquing right away, because you can cross thread these bolts. It makes it hard to get the thread straight, and if you cross thread a couple of these, you end up having leaks. So you got to be careful. So we only got one more, I see two here left. That pan's already loose. And this last one I take out, that pan is really going to drop down, so you got to be careful. The fluid is really going to come out of there. There we go. And I think, let's see, I got to make sure I got my pail set up on the other side. I got to practice what I preach here. Okay. Let's see, I think we're set up there. Now we're ready to take this rest of the way off. Hopefully you can see it. There we go. Now I'll take my other hand, since I'm right-handed, and hold this pan up a little bit. And take the last bolt out with my finger, and there it is, it's out. And now we can drop the pan down. We gotta be careful, because it gets sometimes it'll get hung up on the back there, on that bracket of the transmission case. And it doesn't want to come out sometimes. Get the fluid out of there. And now we're about ready to drop it out. Wiggle it out. We'll get here in a second. Let's see, we got one on the back side, I believe. Well, of course it's being stubborn, so I'm going to have to, let's see, figure out how to get that off there. It came off easy last time. Let's see if I can get it started, drop it down. There we go, there we go. Oh, there we go. This is why I said the totes make it nice. And off comes the pan, transmission pan. And now all we have to do is grab the filter. I think you can still see that. There, let me move this camera around a little bit. Well, that's not going to matter because my tote's in the way. Alright, we'll go ahead and pull the filter off. It just slides down. And you can see how plugged up this filter is. Nothing's coming back out of this end here, right here. But this side, if I turn it upside down, it's full of fluid. So it's pretty plugged up. Alright, so now I want to go out here. We'll look in the pan real quick, make sure we don't see anything exciting that will alarm us that there's a major problems going to happen with this transmission. Alright, there's our pan, and I don't see any metal, anything unusual, doesn't look bad at all. And magnet, you'll get a little bit of black stuff. That's nothing unusual, it's just it's there to collect debris and stuff that sometimes gets broken off in the transmission, but looks pretty good. We'll take that out, we'll take this magnet out and clean it. Wipe this pan down, and go ahead and stick our new gasket in. Now it comes with a, let's see, a rubber seal there. You'll have to pull the old rubber seal out, which is inside the transmission. And I'll show you where it's at. It is right there. Right about there. Take that little red guy out before you put your new seal in, and before you put your transmission filter in, I should say. And kind of wipe it down a little bit and do it in reverse order. So just about done already, so not too bad of a job. Alright, I got my new filter in. There's the old O-ring. It's in pretty bad shape, but it's up in there. It just snaps up in there. You just kind of push on it with your hand. It sits up there. Now all we got to do is put the pan back on, put the gasket, and start every one of these bolts with our finger so we don't cross thread them, and tighten it down. And put fluid in it and take it for a spin and see how it does. Now sometimes if you have a transmission where your front pump starts to make a little bit of noise after it warms up, and when you're driving it, check your filter, because sometimes it's not your pump getting bad. Your filter gets plugged up and doesn't allow enough fluid to get into that pump, and that pump gets air mixed in with the fluid. It makes that growling noise or that whining sound. Sometimes you hear that when you give it gas, so you have to be careful about that. So that's why it's really important to change your filter. Alright, I got my bolts started, and as you can see, I'm starting every one of these bolts with my fingers. I am not taking a ratchet to it because, like I said, you'll strip it. And that way it keeps the pan kind of loose, and you can get these bolts going in straight. So I got all these bolts here started. I'm going to pull this big toad out of here and go ahead and start the rest of the bolts, and we'll tighten her down. Alright, there's a good look at it. Got all my bolts in, and I believe these bolts torque down at 18 pounds. You might want to verify it, but they're not terribly tight because you can strip them. But you might want to check just to verify that they are 18 pounds. And like I said, this is the 14 bolt pan. So all we got to do now is put fluid in it and make sure you wipe off all the excess, because if you go park somewhere and you still have a little bit of fluid leaking from when you was working on it, you might freak out. Just makes it a little bit easier to figure out where the leaks are. So now we're going to just put fluid in it. We'll take it for a ride and see how she does. Alright, we'll go ahead and take it for a spin here in a second, but I want to show you guys one more thing before I forget. This is the old filter, and I tried to blow in there, and man, this thing is really plugged up. And if you look closely, you can probably see all kind of crap in there. So I was really surprised how quickly these things get plugged up. But it seems like it's going to be okay, so we'll take this out for a ride, and I'll give you guys one final update. Alright, this is regarding the new filter that I put in the transmission, and it's shifting great. Actually, it's shifting a little bit better now from second to third. You can't even feel it. And it's running really good. And at 40 miles an hour, I'm only idling at 11,000 RPM, which is really cool. That will give you some idea what you got to do to change your transmission fluid. This is a 7R70W transmission. I'll have to write that down on the description, I believe. But this is a 2000 Ford Expedition, the 4.6. But there you go. So one last look there. Shifting perfect. So somebody might watch this video, but there's about 1 million videos of how to change a transmission filter in one of these. It's probably the easiest transmission filter to do anyway. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day, and be careful out there, and say hello.